as this client can set boundaries, which is what we help with, is to set boundaries and instill confidence to be able to ask for support when she needs support, and for her to feel comfortable in it, for her to feel like it's normal, it's okay, and in fact it's necessary. And then she actually turned that around, and the migraine slowly disappeared. It does take commitment from both sides. But we are sharing these stories to help you understand and notice how the mind, the body are totally interrelated. They cannot be separated.
And I think one theme that's coming up in my head, when I'm listening to the stories we mentioned so far, is what's coming up is that the person has an unmet need, and then their attention is being drawn to that unmet need in sometimes maladaptive ways, but they serve a purpose. And so, when we try to switch off our symptoms through taking painkillers or through taking an antidepressant or whatever it might be, what we're not doing is uncovering that unmet need and dealing with it.
So what happens then?
It shows up in another way.
Yeah. Exactly, and there's so many cases I've seen where client just doesn't have just one issue. It's like anxiety, depression, body pain, nerve pain, muscle pain, diabetes, heart disease,
fibromyalgia.
Oh, that's
IBS.
very common. That's very common as well, right? Yeah, and exactly why? Because we're trying to do, unfortunately, in modern day medicine, is suppress. And this is not to point fingers at anyone or to accuse anyone, because this is just how the system works, and this is just how we've been trained and nurtured to deal with our health. But this isn't how we used to be, and this is not the true version of us. And so, did you want to talk to us and tell us a little bit about what happens when we disconnect the mind, the body, and the soul?
Yeah, before I go into that, what I did want to say was that, we were thinking about naming this show. We came up with the name. We had a few that we batted around. We came up with Secrets of a Good Life. And the word secret here, actually, the secret is that they're actually not that secret.
They're not very secretive. And actually, what might be really great is there's an advert coming up in about 50 seconds. We're going to share these not so secrets after the show. But did you want to tell us a little bit about why you came up with this name? Yeah,
so as we said, we were thinking about foundations of well-being. And those foundations of well-being, when you address those, you're benefiting all aspects of your life. So we're talking about living a good life spiritually, physically, in whatever way. Secrets are things that we knew, we had the knowledge, but it used to be intuitive. It used to be just instinctive, but we've lost it because we lost touch with our fitra. And when we come back, we'll go into a little bit more detail about what happens when you lose touch with your fitra.
Absolutely fantastic. Please stay tuned and join us back after the adverts.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Asia Restaurant gives you the unique fusion of flavours from Turkey, Iraq, Syria and Iran. Our shish kebabs are grilled on a charcoal barbecue for that authentic taste. Lamb shanks, fresh shawarma, chili kebab, lamb shish, grilled chicken, freshly made baklava and so much more. Eat in or order through Peterborough Eats or Peterborough Grab. Asia Restaurant, 5 Fitzwilliam Street, Peterborough, PE1 2RU. Call us on 01733 562 530. Great prices, great quality. Why not come and find out for yourself? Asia Restaurant, the true taste of the Middle East.
महानूर मजीद हूँ और कोर्ट मेरा एक खूबसूरत आशियाना है जहाँ मेरे जैसे हजारों यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चों की कफालत बेहतरीन अंदाज में की जा रही है। आए हमारे सरों पर दस्ते शफकत रखें और इस माह रमज़ान अपने सदकात, खैरात और एहतियात से हमारी कफालत में अपना हिस्सा डालें। अल्लाह पाक आपका दिया हुआ माल अपनी बारगाह में कबूल फरमाए। आमीन।
कोर्ट UK ऑफिस 0300 123 774 court.org.uk.
At Cake Inn, all our cakes and slices are freshly baked for that delicious taste. At Cake Inn, we bake 100% vegetarian and halal eggless fresh cream cakes. Delicious flavoured cakes for birthdays and weddings, ceremonies and all other occasions, with free customised messages, even balloons and candles too. Order for delivery or collection from Cake Inn, 489 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PE, and your cake could be ready within 2 hours. Find out more and order online at cakeinn.co.uk or call 01733 496 584.
Peterborough. Who said good quality fried and grilled chicken has to be expensive? At Sam's, we take pride in every piece of chicken that leaves our kitchen. Just one bite of our chicken or burgers is all it takes to realise we are the best. Visit us at our brand new place at 333 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PF. Or order a delivery through Just Eat, Uber or Deliveroo. Sam's, the home of great tasting chicken for over 30 years.
HS Lawyers make it so simple. Contact Majid Sarwar or Asad Arif today for any matters relating to immigration, family, business or property. Google HS Lawyers to see why we're the highest reviewed firm in Peterborough, with over 500 testimonies on our honesty, speed and excellent communication, making your legal matter simple, easy and stress-free. Contact us today on 01733 703 978. That's 01733 703 978, or email us at peterborough@hs-lawyers.co.uk. HS Lawyers, built on values of integrity and respect, with offices in Peterborough and throughout the West Midlands.
If you want to learn about
Welcome
Islam
back
and
to
Muslims,
the Secrets of a Good Life show with me, Ruqia Zafar.
And myself, Madhia Jaral. Oh, thank you. We want to shout out to Brother Faisal for his comments on Facebook and a question on YouTube. So, Brother Faisal's question is, can hypnotherapy help improve physical performance? So, physical performance, from what I understand, it could be in terms of like your physique and being able to physically achieve, but also maybe physical performance. Someone could be thinking about like public speaking, or performing to a stage or to a people, and it doesn't even have to be public speaking. It can be just to like a team member or to a senior, etc. So we'll respond to physical performance regardless of whether it means physical in terms of like your athletic body, or whether it means physical in terms of like standing up in front of people and performing to people. And that could be performance, not just speaking, but singing or anything else. So so in terms of the physical performance, depending on how we talk to ourselves, we can either hold ourselves back or really, really push ourselves. And what often happens is, depending on what our upbringing was and depending on what our nurturing was, and that will determine what kind of conversation we have with ourselves. So if you have the kind of conversation, I mean, it reminds me of actually a client not that long ago who had felt very nervous, sweaty when she was not so much public speaking, but speaking with her seniors. And she would not focus on any question that anyone was asking. She wouldn't have eye contact, and she just wanted to speak through her speech, and she just couldn't wait to the end. Or it could be physical performance in terms of like you're sprinting and you want to improve your time, or you're weightlifting, you want to be able to improve how much you lift, or maybe it's recovery of body, like how well your body is recovering. All this depends on how we are communicating with ourselves. And what do I mean by that? So talking about the nervous system a little bit. When we are speaking to ourselves, we are sending messages to our body. So let me give you an example. If the message I'm sending to my body is that I can do 100 meters in 15 seconds, I don't know if that's a good time, but let's just pretend it is. I can do 100 meters in 15 seconds. If I'm sending that message to my body, what happens is it travels down the nervous system and it goes to the cells in my body. Now, cells in my body has receptors. By the way, I don't have a scientific background, so this is for you, the layman. So the receptor listens to this message and says, oh, I've heard this message before. Let me receive this message. And what happens is, it's not just one receptor that's receiving this message. Because this is a familiar message, there's multiple receptors that are receiving this message. If one day I say to myself that I can do 100, like I'm really trying to push myself, I'm really trying to achieve, I want to, get a new personal best, it might be running, it might be swimming, it might be cycling. We should share our cycling example, actually. We'll do that in a moment. And I say to myself, I can do 100 meters in 10 seconds. When I send this message down to my body, the cells are listening and they say, oh, hang on a minute, this is not a familiar message. I'm not interested in this. And it bounces it back out. So it's not received by our cells. But if I send that message again and again and again, the cells say, hang on a minute, this message keeps on coming to me. I need to open up a receptor for this. And the rate at which the receptors open actually is a multiplying and compounding rate. So it's not one receptor for one message. But when the message becomes familiar, it's kind of like you can square. I mean, I'm just giving you, this is not scientifically proven, I'm just giving you a general idea that for one familiar message, 3 receptors will open. And then when it comes again, 9 receptors will open. Because it's so familiar, the cells are very welcoming and open to receive this message. So you might tell me, oh, but Madhia, I'm saying to myself that I can do 100 meters in 10 seconds, but it's not happening. The reason is because there's a resistance or a block. Or you might say to me, when I'm about to speak to my seniors, I'm telling myself, I'm calm, I'm smart, I have all the knowledge, I know I can do this, but still I'm sweating, still I can't see eye to eye, still I'm fumbling around and I'm speeding through my script, which I've written to the T. It's unnatural. I'll say again, there's a resistance, there's a block. So what we do with hypnotherapy is we go and find out, what is this resistance? What is this block that's preventing you to be comfortable to talk to your senior, just as if you're talking to a friend? What is the block that's preventing you from reaching the 100 meters in 10 seconds? And what happens in the subconscious state that Dr. Ruqia described earlier is we go back to scenes in our life where these blocks and resistance were instilled. It may be from a family member, it may be from a friend, it may be from a neighbor. Someone somewhere said something that planted this block and resistance. And the subconscious mind never lets go. You might consciously be saying to yourself that I can do, 100 meters in 10 seconds. But subconsciously, there's a different story going on in your body. But the good news is this. Our neurological pathways are changing every 10 minutes. We are not the same person that we were 10 minutes ago. Our brain is not working in the same way that it was working 10 minutes ago. We can change our pathways. It's easier and quicker to change them in the subconscious state because it's not judgmental, it's not critical, and it's not resisting. What would you like to add on to that, Dr.
I
Ruqia?
wanted to add on to that what this doesn't mean is you go and have a hypnotherapy session and then you sit at home like a couch potato, and then it comes to marathon day and you think you can run a marathon and you haven't trained for it at all, but you've had hypnotherapy. What we do in the hypnotherapy session is that we help you remove the resistance against the behaviors that will help you develop that particular time you want, for example. So,
Brother Faisal found that comment funny. It's true.
or that you can eat anything you like and think you're going to be okay as an athlete. As an
Absolutely.
athlete, you've got to eat to feed your body, right?
The right food, the right
You can't be
training.
eating junk and think that you can turn up on whatever competition day and you're gonna win your first prize or whatever.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that the block maybe that they're eating junk and they're not even paying attention to it. Like they have a Snicker late at night, although they've been training perfectly.
Why are they? Yeah.
It will come up
Yeah.
in
yeah.
the hypnotherapy, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. Hypnotherapy does help improve physical performance, and it helps you incorporate the holistic behaviors that you need to help improve your physical performance.
Because then in that case, the Snicker case, did I call it a Snicker?
I think you did.
Yeah, the Snicker case. We'll discover why you need to eat that Snicker at that time, and once we discover why you need to do that, it'll be an emotional need. We can remove that and the emotional need is based on certain beliefs that have been created, and those beliefs have been created because of how we have been nurtured and what we have been exposed to. And this exposure can be from family, friends, school. It could be something a teacher said at some point.
Even a stranger sometimes.
In passing, TV, whatever we are exposed to in all our senses. And the thing is, when you are sat there or stood there, whatever you're doing, listening to the show, consciously you're listening to our words and you'll pick up a certain percent of it. Subconsciously, you're actually much, much more aware of your entire surrounding and you're picking everything up. And that's the thing. And this often happens, and actually happened to me not that long ago, is that some scenes came up with a client and she said to me, I didn't realize how much they had impacted me. I thought I had dealt with that.
That, again, a common theme. People think that something hasn't impacted them or they've dealt with it, but subconsciously is lingering and it's feeding certain behaviors, it's feeding certain ways of thinking. And hypnotherapy can be great at discovering what that is. Now, if you didn't have hypnotherapy or didn't have access to it, there are other ways of, getting down to those deeper layers. They are usually much more long-winded, but it's possible. But hypnotherapy really gets to the core issue very quickly.
Yeah, and you can start working on it. So it depends on what the preference is. Some people like to take their time, talk it out, and for them, maybe they're not ready to know. And so hypnotherapy won't be right for them. But for someone who's like just ready, like, let's make this happen. I want this change yesterday. And, okay, I'm exaggerating, but I do that.
Yes, she does.
But who are ready for the change, then hypnotherapy is right for them. And it's interesting that I'm glad Brother Faisal asked about physical performance, because maybe we can mention some of the wider areas that we work with in hypnotherapy, where it's not just, we've spoken a lot about physical and emotional, but public speaking,
procrastination,
motivation, confidence,
low self-worth,
self-esteem.
Obviously physical issues we've mentioned already.
Yeah, maybe you've got writing block. Like you're a writer and you've got writing block.
Yeah, relationship issues.
Oh,
very commonly.
Relationship issues. Yeah, very, very big. Like with parenting or maybe with your partner.
Insomnia.
Yes. Even blocks to finding a partner. Like maybe you've been looking and trying to find a partner, and we can discover what the blocks are.
So a whole host of issues. Okay, so before the break, we were talking about
the not so secret secrets.
secrets of a good life. So, as I said, this knowledge was common sense. It was instinctive. It was intuitive. But it now often feels like it's lost. I don't think it is lost, but it's much less commonplace. And we believe, we were discussing this, that one of the reasons for this is that we're moving away from our fitra. So the fitra is, translated in lots of different ways. Let's call it the primordial state, where we're in a state of oneness, and we're in a state of witnessing Allah.
Oneness and witnessing.
Oneness, yes.
You trip on that word, it's okay. I trip on many, I'm sure.
And we're moving away from our fitra. So people often think that as a species, humanity is progressing. We are definitely progressing technologically, but are we progressing spiritually? And I think most scholars say that we're actually not. We're moving further and further away from our fitrah as we.
Yeah, with spiritually, that's important. But I was reading the other day about the number of, the percentage of which mental health issues have increased, the percentage of which cancer has increased, the percentage, you didn't correct me on my tripping of the word, but anyway, you're so kind, the percentage at which physical health issues like disease is increasing. And people might argue, oh, we can just identify them now and label them. But actually the truth is that people were experiencing life differently. They had a healthier lifestyle. And it goes back to being closer to our fitrah. So what does that mean, like, for a layman? What do you mean when you say our innate state, our primordial state? What does that look like?
So I said at the beginning that we are created and designed in a way that we have the capacity to heal and to return to a state of health. And when we are in that state of health, we're in connection with ourselves, we're in connection with Allah, we're in connection to others around us and to the rest of creation, including the planet. When we move away from a state of fitrah, the impact of it is seen in how we relate to Allah, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to our loved ones, how we relate to the rest of creation. And the consequences of it that ultimately show up in us spiritually, physically, mentally, in our relationships, in our communities, and in the very health of the planet. To the extent that we're getting to the point now where we're endangering our own survival. Mm-hmm. So returning to this state of fitrah is really, really, something we really need to think about. And the reason is because when we think about fitrah, we think of it as spiritually. But as we were saying, this quote that we kept sort of coming up with, how we relate to anything is how we relate to everything. Mm. So this means that in Islam, our spirituality will impact how we relate to ourselves, to the planet, and all of that links back to how we relate to Allah. And ultimately, that starts within ourselves. And this idea that we have to be, that you need to know yourself in order to know Allah is, an age-old part of our spiritual tradition. Mm. That's something that the scholars write about and they work on. So what we're talking about here in getting to know yourself and getting to know how to look after yourself is not new knowledge, really. Mm. That's why, secret in inverted commas is actually not secret. It's just that it's not common anymore.
So I want you to give me an example. So why is it, like, on the ground as a layman, give me an example. Why is it important for me or give me an example of where not relating to myself properly and not relating to the environment and not relating to Allah, how does it impact me on a day-to-day? Like, why is it actually important to me?
Okay, so let's take the example of the health of the planet and our bodily health, for example. So one of my mentors, Dr. Jenny Goodman, she said recently, she practices what she calls ecological medicine, and she says the reason we call it ecological medicine is that in conventional medicine, we have a specialist for the heart and a specialist for the kidney and a specialist for the brain or whatever it might be. But she says, but actually we are one ecosystem. The human being is an ecosystem that you can't split into parts. When you start splitting us into parts, what you don't realize is that what you do in one part of this ecosystem will have an impact on the entire ecosystem. We know that from nature and our studies of nature.
And can I just share here, when we did that day course with Dr. Rodman of Cambridge Muslim College, he said essentially the same thing, is that our life on earth is about oneness and wholeness. Yeah. And it's Shaitan who creates this separatedness. Yeah. I struggle with that word a lot, but anyway, it's okay. And so it goes back to what you're saying about we are an ecosystem, like we are one full ecosystem.
Yeah, we are an ecosystem in ourselves, but then we live within a greater ecosystem. And so there can be no human health without planet health, but there can be no planet health without human health. And that's because when we're spiritually sick and we stop living as khulafa of Allah, and we start living as people who are here to amass material possessions and to just feed our greed, we destroy the planet as we go along. We poison our rivers. We, strip our soil of nutrients. So what happens? That comes back to us. Our food isn't nutritious anymore. We drink our water, and that's making us sick. You go swimming somewhere, and that's making you sick. We're constantly exposed to pollution that's showing up in the rates of asthma going up, or the rate of eczema going up. So, when you look at that and look at ourselves as an ecosystem and look at our relation to the bigger ecosystem, we begin to realize that we really can't separate ourselves into parts, and we can't separate ourselves from the rest of creation. And, we don't want to get into spirituality because,
that's not our forte.
No.
Can we have that disclaimer? Spirituality is not our forte.
However, things we are saying here may well benefit your spirituality.
Inshallah, we hope so.
For reasons that we've just mentioned, we can't be split.
Yeah.
And we will get scholars and people who specialize in spiritual health to come and talk to you as well.
On the show, inshallah.
Inshallah.
As you're speaking about that, it's reminding me of that proverb: people who are hurt.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
Or just hurt.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing here and what I'm hearing here from you is that when, I'll use myself as an example, when I am hurt, and I might not be aware of this hurt, but I've got an internal hurt, then I might be feeling anger and resentment.
Like the client we mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah, the client who, the Quran reciter and teacher client. And because she was hurting inside, that she was hurting her children, she was hurting her husband. And, and when you're hurting inside, how likely are you to take care of your garden? Take care of separating the rubbish with recycle and non-recycle. Take care of, when you're going for a walk, of what your environment is like. Take care of your neighbor. Because we are so consumed and drowning in our own hurt that we're unable to see what we are doing to others. Just want to take a moment before you add your wonderful contributions to say thank you to Sister Nadia Abdurrahman, for her support on Facebook. She says, mashallah, wonderful show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Nadia, for your support. It's so important to us, and we'd love your contribution. And maybe you could come on the show one day. I'd love.
Oh, yeah, because I know you have lots of
so
amazing,
much to share, Sister Nadia. So, we're going to get connected and arrange for you to join us on the show, because actually some months ago, Sister Nadia and I were talking about doing a show, and so this could be it. She can come and join us. We'd love to hear your comments and your feedback. To everyone that's listening out there, and please show us your support, and please show us your feedback, and any questions that you have, please feel free to share. Sending your love back, Sister Nadia, mashallah. I'm sorry, Sister Dr. Ruqia, you were saying?
Call me Ruqia.
I will, interchangeably.
And other not so nice stuff.
Of course, we're on air.
So,
I have to keep it
just
polite.
when you were talking about that spiritual wholeness, what came to mind was a few years ago we attended a retreat in Nottingham, and there were scholars there from different parts of the world. There were some scholars from Yemen there, and I remember one speaker saying something which at the time I didn't quite understand. I knew it was profound, but I didn't really fully register how profound it was or why it was profound. He said that he spent time with people who you learn from just watching them making a cup of tea. And I was like, what's making a cup of tea got to do with learning spiritually? But if how we do anything is how we do everything, the way you make a cup of tea is completely related to how you stand in front of Allah in worship. When you're making a cup of tea as a spiritually whole person, you are really careful about where you got that water from and what's the state of that water and whether it's pure. You're careful about whether that tea bag that you're using, whether that contains microplastics that are going to harm your body and then going to have an impact on your heart. You're going to be careful about that tea that's in that bag is a fair trade. The people who actually planted, grew and harvested that tea, are they being given the fair wage that they deserve? And all of that is going to have an impact on your spiritual health. So that quote again, how we relate to anything is how we relate to everything. I don't know who said that, but it's amazing.
I'm going to have to hold myself back from judging people. how they're making their tea. No, but that's, the other thing I'm thinking, as you mentioned that in the how, is the kindness and care that you take.
Exactly,
not wasting water. And
reciting Bismillah at the beginning, reciting salawat as you go along and do it.
And so how you're interacting with all the objects around you. We've got a few minutes left for the show. And before we go, I really want us to share with you what everyone can expect from this show. So we really want this show to be hands-on. We want it to be practical. We want you to take away something every week, a tool, a tip, etc. So what will we be covering? We'll be looking at why it's important to look after all three aspects of ourselves that are not three aspects but actually one, the mind, the body, the soul. And how we truly cannot separate them, and separating them is actually where disease comes in. We'll also be looking at the mind and the nervous system, how they function, the secrets of how they function, and you'll really be given tools and tips to go away with where you can start making the changes in your life. We'll be looking at case studies of how the body and mind has impacted each other, real life case studies that we have worked with that have impacted us. So why is any of this going to be important to you?
So those listening in, you may suffer from something like anxiety or IBS or depression or hormonal health issues or OCD or PTSD or back pain, whatever it might be. We're hoping that the stuff we're talking about here is foundational principles that apply to all of you, and you learn skills that empower you to take charge of your health and therefore your life, because if you're not whole and you're not healthy, as we said, it's going to impact every aspect of your life. As we said also, we'll keep them practical and implementable straight away. So you'll take something from every show that you can start putting into your life right away and hopefully start seeing the benefits of it right away.
So the kind of things we're talking about is, we want you to be able to take away something so you can maybe parent a little bit better. Maybe you can be a little bit kinder to your spouse or have a better relationship with your spouse. Or maybe there's something at work that's affecting you. Being able to improve your relationship at work, your confidence, your motivation.
It might be how to communicate better with people.
Yeah, so it's not just physical and mental health issues, but it's other issues that will help you have a better relationship with yourself and better relationship with those around you, better relationship with your environment, better relationship, hopefully, with Allah.
And this show will be covering a huge variety of topics, and that's deliberate, and we, hopefully by now you understood why it's going to be covering a huge variety of topics. Because well-being and a good life is encompassing of a vast range of experiences, different aspects of ourselves, and so we're going to keep it general, we're going to keep it wide, and therefore we're going to keep it very, very interesting, hopefully.
If you've got any questions or you've got any issues particularly, please drop us a message. You've got the number. Can you get up the number for contacting us? Yeah, Dr. Ruqia will get the number for us. And we want to hear what your issues are at home. We want to hear what you are trying to work on. We want to hear what you feel is preventing you from becoming and living the best version of your life. And because we want this to be relevant to you. And we're here not just to share, but also to take from you.
It's a conversation.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you know and learned and have experienced has helped you? Please contact us. So you can contact us anytime. Thank you very much for listening to our show. I'm Madhia Jalal and
Ruqia Zafar.
See you next time.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
हाँ बिलाल, मैं हमारी ग्रॉसरी